Hello and welcome to Fortress, Alaska. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to be talking about the Colt 1911, the one, the only. You knew it was coming, everyone does a video on it. But before I'll start, I would like to mention you'll see me wearing gloves. The reason I'm wearing gloves is I have some bad cuts on my hands, and I'm sure you don't want to see my bloodied fingers, nor do I want to get blood all over everything, so I have gloves on. So, in case you wondered, that's why the gloves are on. So first, let's start with some history of the Colt 1911. This beauty right here. It was adopted 29 March 1911 by the U.S. Army. The Navy and Marines adopted it in 1913. Don't ask about the Air Force. There was no such thing as an Air Force until 1947. And actually, they really didn't use the 1911 much. They used revolvers. It originally competed with designs from Bergmann, DWN, DWM, read that as Luger, Savage Arms, Noble, Webley, and White Merrill. Now, only 3 guns actually made it into the actual trials, being the Savage, the Luger, and the 1911. The Luger dropped out really quick. I really don't think DWM was interested in the market. Plus, they had to make it in 45 ACP instead of their 9mm, so I don't think they saw it as worth their effort. And considering that the war started a few years later, that wouldn't have gone well. Anyways, the 45 caliber was required due to the lack of effectiveness of the double-action 38 caliber revolvers the Army was using. The Moro Rebellion in the Philippines did not go well for those revolvers. They would take hits and keep coming because they were usually on drugs and very aggressive. So for a while, the Army actually went back to Colt single actions in 45 long Colt to be more effective. This was the best pistol of World War I, without a doubt. 30 years after its adoption, when the U.S. entered World War II, it was still one of the best service pistols in the world. And it is still in service today. So it's now, what, 112 years old, or almost 112 years old, and it's still a formidable pistol even today. Now let's go over some features of the 1911. First of all, it is a single action pistol, which means, here we go, let's drop the magazine out, that makes that easier. Which means that you have to rack the slide, which will chamber around if there's a magazine in, and then the hammer is back. When you fire, the cartridge will discharge, causing the slide to go back, thus cocking the hammer and getting you set for another shot. If the hammer is down, the trigger does nothing. So the hammer must be back for the gun to work. It's a single action pistol. It originally featured, as a standard, a 7-round single stack magazine. Note, single stack magazines are the most reliable type of magazine. However, in the modern world, everyone wants double stack, and the reliability is so close it's not worth worrying about. Now, the original loading for it for a 45 ACP was a 230 grain hardball ammo at 815 to 830 feet per second, which gives you about 360 foot-pounds of energy. More than enough to stop a man. Now, some of the other features we have. It has the grip safety. The grip safety was required by the cavalry. Yes, in 1911, men on horseback was still a thing, and the cavalry really wanted some additional safety. So that's where the grip safety comes from. It also has a lanyard loop, which most service pistols do. It also has a manual safety, which, as you can see, doesn't work unless the hammer is back. Then you can put the safety on. And then when you go to fire, you sweep the safety off and the gun is ready to fire. Now, the 1911 is usually carried in one of 3 ways. Either empty chamber, hammer down, safety off. That would be one way. Another way, the most common, is it cocked, hammer back, round in the chamber, and the safety on, hence cocked and locked. And so all you do is sweep that off, and you can fire the gun. Now you can also carry it with it loaded and the hammer down, but then the safety doesn't work, and you only have your grip safety, and then you have to cock the hammer. Not really recommended. if you're going to carry it other than cocked and locked, leave no round in the chamber, because then you can just rack the slide and be ready to go. It uses a short recoil tilting barrel action. So when the slide comes back, mind you, the magazines are holding back, the barrel actually tilts up a little bit, which is not as obvious to see on the 1911 as it is on, say, a Glock or other modern pistols, which tilt even more. But it is a tilting barrel. And then it has a slide release right here. Lower that slide slowly. So, and this is still the standard system for service pistols worldwide, used today by almost every service pistol made, except the pistol that replaced the 1911, which is the Beretta M9. The Beretta M9 uses a locking block system and not a tilting barrel, which Beretta basically got from the Walther P38. Really, there's not a whole lot new in firearms design. Now, the common sizes are the 5-inch government model. Then there's a 4 1/4 inch commander's model. And then there's the smaller officer's model, which is a 3 1/2 inch. And then with the officer's model, you actually lose a round in the magazine because they go down to 7-round magazines. But the military really just only adopted the one. And then there are two types. There's the Series 70 and the Series 80. The Series 70 does not have a firing pin block, which means even with the hammer down, if I was to drop this gun, just inertia alone hitting the ground, the firing pin could come forward and discharge the cartridge. The Series 80 has a firing pin block, which is released by the trigger. When you squeeze the trigger, it moves the firing pin block out of the way and allows the the firing pin to move. So this is a Series 70, so they are not drop safe. So understand that if you're going to get a 1911, know what you're getting, whether it be a Series 70 or a Series 80. You want to know if it's drop safe. So now let's go through some of the differences between the original 1911 and the 1911A1. To start with, the 1911A1 has a much wider front sight and a much better rear sight to account for that wider front sight. These sights are very difficult to use. They're really great and precise if you want to be a marksman, but for combat sights, honestly, they suck. But for precise shooting, they're awesome if you're good with a 45. Now, the other difference we have is on the original 1911, you have a flat mainspring housing. On the A1, you have an arched mainspring housing. The 1911 has a longer trigger. The A1, the trigger's been shortened to make it easier for people with smaller hands to reach. The original 1911 has 2 diamonds cut on the grips. As you can see, these 2 diamonds. The 1911A1 did away with that. This original 1911 has a shorter beaver tail. The A1 has a longer beaver tail in the back. The original 1911 has a shorter hammer spur. The A1 has a longer hammer spur. As you can see, there's no relief cut here above the magazine release. In the 1911 A1, this has been chamfered out to make it easier to get your finger around. Mind you, that'd be for a left-hander, but for a right-hander, it would be done on this side. So he's done on both sides on the pistol. So those are the differences between the 1911 and the 1911 A1. Finally, talk about uses today. The 1911 is still widely used today, and in many ways. Law enforcement officers use them. It's a fine pistol. It still is today. It's still used by some people in the military. It will do the job. It's one of the best competitive shooting guns. The trigger on the 1911 is such that it is an amazing trigger, and it's hard to match with either a striker fire or other designs. So for fast firing and competitive shooting, the 1911 style trigger is among the best. It makes a great home defense pistol. It can be used for hunting where it's legal. It does make a concealed carry weapon. However, it is heavy. It is a heavy gun, so take that into account. You'd probably be a bigger person if you were going to be carrying this all day. But it would be a very effective. concealed carry gun. Now also, they're also just fun to shoot. Now there are more modern versions of the 1911 that you can look up. It's called the 2011. And the 2011 basically has a wider grip frame, and it's usually polymer, and it takes double stacked 9mm magazines to give you 15, 16 or more shots. But everything else is pretty much the same. And those are used mostly by competitive shooters. Some law enforcement uses them. They make great concealed carry weapons. They're good for home defense, but they're usually very expensive, where even the low-end one is going to be over $1,500. So the 1911 still has its place for the average person, and you can get these, depending on the manufacturer, between $400 and the sky's the limit. You just have to pick what you like and what to get. This particular one is the 100th anniversary model of the 1911, done by Colt. It's a beautiful gun, and it is a shooter. I do shoot this. You'll see video of me shooting it, or you saw video of me shooting it, one or the other. So it was their 100th anniversary model, so I've had it since 2011. It's a fine gun, and if you ever find one, I can highly recommend them. They are beautiful pieces of history, and they are worth having just to shoot and collect. So once again, this is Dave with Fortress Alaska. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. You could help me out on Patreon if you want. If not, don't worry about it. But most importantly, try to leave comments below and share with your friends. It helps the algorithms. And as always, have a good day and get out shooting.